Hey gang, today I'm going to talk a tiny bit about randomizing your MIDI drums, why I do it, and why you may find some use with it too. If you are in the music production space and you are an in-the-box producer like I am, you do not record really much live. Occasionally, maybe you'll do some claps. I don't know, maybe you'll do some random percussion. Maybe you've got some wind chimes at home, whatever you have. But probably not a ton. So what you end up with is a very quantized, on the grid, timed out drum loop. So I've got one queued up here for a song that I had been working on recently for the chorus, and let's take a listen to it real quick. Okay. Not a finished product. I have some scratch vocals in there just as a reference for the melody. It's a pretty empty song, to be honest. So what's going on right now is mostly drums. And it's a pretty basic loop. We've got just about all the elements. We've got a fill. We've got your hi-hats. We've got sort of a dance hat. We have kicks, snares, and kind of all on sort of timings you would expect. It's the chorus. So one thing I like to do is kind of stack my things together to get a little more impact. So I have a couple snares and then what I would label as snare support. And I have a Haas snare going as well, just to add more like intensity to the chorus section. So there are two reasons for all of my drums that I would go through a randomizing process with the quantization in Pro Tools. For those of you who do not know what that is, if you record MIDI into Pro Tools or any DAW for that matter, you're going to have an ability to quantize it and make it sort of perfectly lined up on the grid, which I usually do when I'm in the production and writing phase. To change some of that or to change the timing of how it's quantized, I don't want a triplet. Let's take it to a 30-second and no triplet. You would go to this bar here in Pro Tools. I'm a Pro Tools guy, no swing for this one. You would go to this bar here, and then you would click on this settings icon to get some more advanced features like changing the velocity or duration, things like that. Most of the time, you're probably going to use quantize. Okay, so I like to write and produce, and it makes for quick access to like copy and paste stuff. So you do kind of end up with a lot of on the grid, perfectly timed out things. The first reason I would add some randomization, and I would do this at the end of the process, basically when I was ready to print something, is because it's slightly more musical. So if everything is perfectly aligned on the grid, well, imagine if you were an actual drummer playing this. Like even if you're a great drummer, you're not going to be able to do that perfectly aligned. So adding a little bit of randomness will help it to feel more natural. I'm going to take it up to just like, let's take it like 35. This is probably higher than I would do, but just as an example, you'll see all this slightly shift just a little bit. Right now it's perfect. This is going to make it imperfect. And that's kind of what we're going for. Not a massive change, just ever so slightly off. If we took it even further, now you're starting to get more imperfections. But just really more like a drummer would do it is the way I would phrase it. It sounds just a little more organic. And if you're doing everything in the box, it's kind of hard to find opportunities to be more organic. This to me is one of them. Sounds like more like closer to a real person playing it somehow. It's imperfect, and that in this case is a good thing. The number two reason I would do this is a little bit more clinical, and that is for mixing and mastering purposes, basically headroom. So again, I like to stack things together. As a result of that, I have on the 2s and 4s basically of the beat of this song, I have 3 different snare elements, plus your hi-hat's going to play there, maybe the dance hat, and then maybe some fill, tom percussion, and then at the end we have some more fill and tom percussion. So like we have a lot of things hitting at the same time, in addition to whatever else we have, whether it's vocals or keys or low end stuff, whatever it is. So when let me see if I've got this queued up correctly. I'm going to take all the randomization back down to 0, so everything's going to be perfect again. And now we have everything perfectly aligned. And we're going to look at this Pro L2 just to get a kind of a measurement of where our peaks are hitting at. So we'll take that same loop again. Let me just move this off the screen here. We're going to take that same loop and pay attention to the peaks. I'd say in this case, particularly on the snares, which are these ones, how sharp they are and how high they are. And that's to be expected. We stacked a whole bunch of stuff together with purpose. Like, we wanted to up the intensity for the chorus, so it's not for nothing. But as a result, now we have some crazy high peaks. So if you're doing mastering and stuff like that, sure, you could just smash it with the limiter and you could do it that way. I would probably do something like that in the end, but with a clipper. But in this case, I'm just going to randomize the drums just a little bit. I'm going to do it a little more dramatically for effect. Let's take it up to, like, I don't know, 70%. Let's take it maybe a little higher, just for ease of display here. We're going to see it shift quite a bit again. All right, so apply. It kind of looks all funky now. Play that same loop. Now, a lot of my snares have come way down, and that's because we've shifted everything just a little bit. So we've saved ourselves maybe a couple dB of headroom, not a ton, but in the end, you're gonna want 2 to 3 dB of headroom if you can get it. That's like half the game. Let's undo that, and we'll look at the twos again. So those are all kind of clipping well above 5, -5, whatever. And I don't really want that. I'll do it from this way. Now I can get those kind of below 5. And that is very useful. We still have the drum coming in there. That's because I have a low end instrument kind of coming in at the same time, but that really helps with your headroom. Just that simple little change. Not so sharp, not so high, saves you on headroom, happens to be more musical. I find it super useful. I mean, I won't say it's like a game changer kind of thing, but it's definitely helpful. And when I would do this this song is kind of early in production. So I wouldn't do it now. Let me get this back off the screen here. I wouldn't do it now. It's not fully written yet. I don't even have like words going on for half the stuff. I wouldn't call it a scratch song, but it's mid stages. Once I've kind of dialed in the arrangement, I've got the drums, I've got the melody, whatever, where I want it to be, even before mixing and mastering, because I do like printing a little bit early, I would print these, I would randomize them first, and then I would print them all. That way it's kind of just in an audio file, but has a little bit of give to it as far as musicality goes, the sort of organic nature of it, and I get the benefit of the headroom. So I wouldn't do it yet. I would say it's a later stage process thing for me, but I would definitely suggest you maybe take a look at it, especially if you're doing things like stacking drums, and you may not even know like how many you're stacking. This is not a crazy dense song, but in the density of this song, I've got maybe, I don't know, 10 drums going at once. In that density, I'm able to save like 3 dB of headroom for my mixing and mastering process. So it just helps you get ahead of the game, and it's super easy to do and super quick right before you're ready to print it. And I do that for a lot of different instruments as well for the similar types of reasons, but on the drums in particular, it really does kind of help with things. So give it a shot in your next production, your next mix. I think it might help out just a little bit. Thanks for listening.